You are approaching Saturn. You are only seconds away.
The Sega Saturn was the first video game console I owned when I was a kid. It was my introduction to gaming, and what an introduction it is. It has everything a gamer needs. Has a weird alien lady.
Please, don't disappoint him.
The demon that visits you when you take too much Benadryl.
But are you ready?
Sing Sega Saturn.
It has some pothead white boy dancing in an empty room with nothing but a TV. Look at him go.
What's happening? What's happening?
It has, naked men.
But no one has played this hard, this fast.
The guy on Reddit who calls you a bigot because you said retard.
Sega Saturn. Sega.
It has, KKK members? Okay, so the advertising team was smoking crack, obviously.
It's the sphincter.
What is going on up there?
But more than anything else, it had a library of very unique games. Games that were hard as hell for me as a kid. I recently went back to play these games again, thinking I'd have an easier time now that I'm all grown up. But I swear these things are even harder now. So let's get into all these Sega Saturn games and cover why they're all hard as hell.
Look for Sega Saturn.
The first game I ever owned as a kid was Darius Gaiden, or as my family pronounced it, Darius Gaiden. I'm pretty sure that's not right. So this game has a bunch of power-ups, and I'm still not sure what they do. Okay, so I'm pretty sure the blue one is the shield, which is weird because the shield is green in this game, but whatever. I guess the red one is like... I didn't figure any of this out until I watched the footage back. There's too much going on. There's meters up there telling you what everything is, but there's too much going on the screen for you to really pay attention to that. If you take your eyes off the action for even a minute, you're dead. You're gonna blow up. You blow up in one hit. This was a hardcore bullet hell shooter. That's right, the first game I ever played when I was about 6 or 7 years old was a hardcore game for bullet hell enthusiasts. And it's actually a pretty good game. The soundtrack fucking slaps, dude. Check this out. The screen will quickly fill with bullshit, and the trick is when that happens, don't be stingy with your black hole bombs. You only have 3 of them, but you need to use them liberally to get past a lot of these parts. This game features a branching path system that can branch out multiple ways depending on what the last path you chose was. Not that I would know what most of these levels look like. To this day, I've never gotten past the 3rd level. Overall, this is a pretty solid game if you're into the old school hardcore difficulty type of games. If you only have half an hour or so to kill before you have to go to work or something, this is a great choice because it drops you right into the action, and that action is non-stop and fast-paced. Doom. Now the main thing that makes this game hard is that it fucking sucks. Not the PC version. The PC version is good, but get a load at this. The Sega Saturn port was widely recognized as one of the worst. It doesn't have the original soundtrack, the frame rate is low and choppy, it's somehow more pixelated than any other version of Doom, and the Sega Saturn controls are kind of not designed with first-person shooters in mind. We'll talk about this a little later on as well. First-person shooters on the Sega Saturn were just inherently tough to do just because of how the controller worked. It was a time before dual analog sticks. And this is manageable in some games, but when the frame rate is low and the draw distance has that unique Sega Saturn fogginess to it where you can't see 3 feet in front of you, it becomes a real problem. The shotgun actually feels pretty good to use in this version, though. I'm not sure what it is, like, it feels a little bit faster or something like that. Overall, Doom is a pretty solid video game, for literally any platform besides the Sega Saturn. I would skip this one, just get it on PC. you can pretty much run it on the crappy little laptop your parents got you to do homework on, so there's no reason to bother getting this version. Okay, Guardian Heroes. Alright, so there's this thing, I've always thought 90s anime was ugly, but 90s anime that was created specifically as a cutscene for an old video game, that is on some next level bullshit. This, to me, just looks like the cheesiest shit ever. Game is good, though. We'll get into that. So there's a few different characters you can choose to play as. As a kid, I always chose the guy with the big sword. This time around, I chose the mage, which was probably one of my biggest mistakes. Because the thing about this game is it's not actually that hard to play. It's just hard to play without looking silly. I'm sure the combat, once you get used to it, is nice and fluid, and, you know, it's gotta be good. The game isn't impossible. It's just, I felt like I was having a seizure the entire time I was playing this. Now, this game is a beat-em-up, but it has sort of some RPG elements. You can level up your character. There's some dialogue. There's a story to it. It's kind of your classic, like, 90s video game RPG story, though. When I was a kid, I thought the green-haired chick was hot. I was down bad when I was like 7 years old. After some quick intro dialogue, the game drops you right into the action. And your first thought is gonna be, what the fuck is going on here? So, I can't get used to which trigger button jumps you forward and which one jumps you back. You can go into the background and foreground. I'm always getting that wrong. And there's like some menu button or something where you can select, I think, spells or items, and doing all this on the fly is hard to do, but I can still manage to make it through a lot of the fights I've been in so far. The game is, while difficult, pretty forgiving. This game is, I mean, it's interesting. For what it was at the time, like, this was a pretty A-tier beat-em-up. It's just, trying to go back to it. I guess if I had read the manual, I might have done better, but hey, who needs a manual? I don't even know how to read. This part right here is the part of the game that really stuck in my memory from when I was a kid. When you say the words Guardian Heroes, this scene right here is what I really remember. I used to play as the big sword guy and just hack and slash these guys all to hell. I swear I was better at it back then too. I've actually gotten worse at this game over time. Robotica, short for Robot Erotica, is a first-person shooter where you play as a robot infiltrating an enemy spaceship. This game is a procedurally generated roguelike, but we didn't have trendy words like that back in the 90s. Anyway, I always thought this game was scary when I was a kid because it's full of a bunch of just ominous clanking in the background of enemy robots, and the draw distance is so short you can barely see a few feet ahead of you. Listen to this sound right here. The game has these special abilities that I never figured out how to use as a kid because I was like a short bus kid. Like the blaze laser you see down there, that's what that meter in the bottom left is for. And as you can see, I fuck it up again. While doing my button check, trying to figure out the controls and remember what does what, I burned through my entire power meter. As a matter of fact, the main thing about this game that makes it hard is just the controls. It could be because the Sega Saturn, once again, is just bad for first-person shooters because they have basically tank controls. Or it could be because I'm playing on an Xbox One controller, which is a very poor analog to the Sega Saturn layout. But one way or another, you'll see me spend most of the beginning of this, I'm not even gonna show it all because it's boring, but the beginning of this is just me fumbling with the controls trying to remember what does what. In each level, you'll have to find one of these gate keys and then find the exit door. Typical roguelike stuff, really. And there you see me just taking a laser straight to the face because I haven't figured out how to sidestep yet. Don't worry, I get the hang of that. Once you have the gate key, the music changes from this ominous, clanking, like, dark ambient industrial track to some kind of an inspirational military march sounding thing. The game has these red trap tiles that burn you when you step on them, and you should not trust procedural generation to place these things because they will be really fucking annoying about it and not think twice. Anyway, here's some footage of me getting, like, sorta good at it to where I can at least hold my own. I can, like, strafe and dodge stuff. Anyway, this game actually isn't the ball buster I thought it was. Once you get used to the controls, it's pretty standard FPS stuff. It just has the Sega Saturn problems of low draw distance and wonky controls. Once you get past that, I mean, it's definitely better than the Doom port. Virtual Hide Glide. Okay, I'm not gonna spend a lot of time with this game because it's been dunked on a million times. But this is a game that I really wanted to like. It looks cool, I enjoy the music, but God, is there so much wrong with it. This is another procedurally generated game that you can actually get to the same procedurally generated world again by remembering the code and putting it back in. Anyway, I'll show you what the music sounds like. I like it. I don't know. It's repetitive after a while, but I enjoy it. Anyway, now that the positives are out of the way, let's get through the rest. The running looks like this. The frame rate looks like this. The combat looks like this. Some items will curse you when you equip them, and you can't unequip them until you get a special scroll to break the curse. Maneuvering through tight spaces looks like this. Is such generic fantasy RPG fare that I'm not even gonna bother describing it to you. Overall, the main reason I never beat this game is just because it acts like it doesn't want to be played. Shell Shock, the game that answers the question no one asked. What if there was a mercenary tank unit comprised entirely of 90s hip-hop dudes? This game is obviously woke pandering because all of the characters are either black or Latino. Actually, real talk, if this came out nowadays, it would probably be called woke by the right and be called like a racist caricature by the left, or like cultural appropriation, because listen to how these fucking guys talk.
Say what up? Allow me to introduce myself, cause y'all gonna need my number if you get into a fix or something. See, they call me 911. You got a problem? You just call on 9.
Okay, so goofy shit aside, how does this game actually play? Well, like, it's alright, I guess. It's a tank game. It feels like driving a tank. Obviously, tank controls. You can rotate your turret independently of your actual tank, but I wouldn't recommend doing this because there's no indicator of which way your turret is facing in relation to your actual tank, and there's no button to snap it back to facing forward. So this will be pretty disorienting, actually, when you press forward and end up going sideways from your perspective. Overall, this game is fun enough, and like it looks cool enough that I think it would be worth trying to get good at, but it's, the controls fight you pretty hard, dude. I've found the best strategy is to try and approach enemies from afar and try to take them out from far enough away that they don't see you yet. That tends to get the best results, but I've never beaten the first level on this game. Oh yeah, so you can get into the tank and check your controls, and I noticed there's a button for change target. I'm gonna give it another shot and see if that allows me to aim a little better in this game. Let's see. Never mind, I drove into a lake. The last entry on our list is Scud, the Disposable Assassin. The best way to describe this game would be schizophrenic. Okay, let me show you something real quick here. This is what the game's loading screen looks like. And this is a video background from a channel called Satanic Lo-Fi Music, one of the channels I subscribe to that just makes spooky noises for schizophrenics. The gameplay is a mix between a 2D run and gun and sort of an on-rails shooter in some parts. And the main thing about this game is there's a lot of points where you'll just take damage and there's really not a damn thing you can do about it. The power-ups are plentiful though. I really think the focus of the gameplay is supposed to be that you find enough power-ups to keep replenishing your health as opposed to avoiding every bit of damage. I also ran out of ammo in this playthrough, which I didn't know was a thing that was possible. So yeah, that was annoying. Basically, any still frame from this game could be used along with the scream sound effect for a jump scare. The vibe is just really bizarre. I'm not sure whether I like it or not. But yeah, there's the health power-ups. You still just die constantly in this game. At some points I was almost having fun, but I don't know. This game is one of those ones I play once in a while for the novelty, and that's really about it. Well, the last thing I'll leave you with is this first-person shooter segment of Scud. This is really weird. They just throw these in kinda throughout levels. But anyway, there's a lot more games I could put on this list, but I only did the ones where the difficulty is just balls to the wall out of the gate, or the game is just super user-unfriendly. Generally, games where I can get at least a few levels in before it gets ball-busting I didn't include. For example, Panzer Dragoon 2 is a game where I never got past the third level of it until just last year, despite it being the second game I ever owned. However, the first level was easy as hell and the second level was reasonable. Same goes with, what's it called? Sega Rally Championship. I'm sure there's more that I haven't even heard of either, or that I just couldn't remember. But anyway, this has been my video on how Sega Saturn made games that were just hard as hell for no reason. It was that old school arcade difficulty.